Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Canvas and regular business meeting of the Prior Lake Savage Board of Education. If you would all stand as you are able and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first part of the meeting tonight is going to be the Canvas, the special election that was held last Tuesday. And you see before you the board member oath, which we will all have to sign. I think Martha's just going to pass it around after we're done with this part. And then the election summary is in front of you. Before we get on to a motion to approve the resolution, the two resolutions, are there any questions on the any part of the election summary, the abstract of votes cast, or any of the other things? Martha is available to answer any questions if you have any.
Just sign and pass.
No? Okay. Then I will entertain a motion to approve a resolution canvassing returns the votes of the school district's special election.
So made.
By Director Olstad, second by Director Bullion. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Abstract.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries 6-0. And then I will entertain a motion to approve the resolution authorizing issuance of certificates of election. Is there a motion to approve?
So made.
Director Johnson, second. By Director Bullion. If there's no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries 6-0.
Are those roll call?
I'm sorry?
Are they roll call?
No. Oh, it is a roll call. You're right.
Dan.
I thought I maybe read ahead.
I even highlighted it.
Sorry.
So, we will have to go back and roll call the vote on the special, the canvassing the returns of special election, starting with Director Olstad.
Aye.
Director Johnson.
Aye.
Director Bullion.
Aye.
Director France.
Aye.
Director Mason.
Aye.
And aye. Now it carries 6-0. And the resolution to authorize the issuance of certificates of election, Director Olstad.
Aye.
Director Johnson.
Aye.
Director Bullion.
Aye.
Director France.
Aye.
Director Mason.
Aye.
And aye. They both carry 6-0. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the canvas portion of this meeting and move into the regular business meeting. Is there a motion? By Director Johnson, second. By Director Bullion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? That carries 6-0. All right, we will now transition to the regular business portion of the meeting. And we will start with Laker Pride. Dr. Thomas.
Thank you, Chair White, Board of Directors. This evening, we are going to start off with our annual showcase with regards to our student artistic abilities. We have Jim Spiker here tonight on behalf of the Prior Lake Savage Optimist Club and teacher Brian Perry and NHS advisor Christy Malmgren. I think she's here. And they are going to come forward to talk about the Optimists Club purchase of student art. And this is something that we proudly display out in our halls and different offices. And it's really our opportunity to celebrate the artistic ability of our students. And so I will have the team come forward, and I also have certificates. And then leaving a little time for the student to explain her or their work through the artist's eyes, because I know art is to the interpretation, left up to the interpretation, but would love to hear from their perspective.
Hi, I'm Jim Spiker. This is Jasmine Dang, and she's going to talk about her piece of her artwork.
Yeah, you just want to go up to the art piece and you can kind of talk to the crowd and the community. Yeah, yep, so 1 second, Dave.
Hello.
Hi, Jasmine.
This is a drawing that I made of my friend. Her name's Evie. I think you could probably guess from the title. I originally drew this for a class assignment from Drawing 1, assigned to me by Mr. Perry, and I didn't really have anything else to do with it. It was supposed to be a gift for her, but she didn't really take it, so I had nothing else to do with it. So I showcased it in the art showcase, and I guess I won. Yeah, it's made with charcoal, and I spent about like 6 class periods on it.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Congratulations on your work. Just for our community's awareness, I know typically we've done a lot of our showcase pictures up here in the front, but right now, right around the left-hand side here, we have a brand-new banner around our Laker Pride. And so now we'll have a consistent background, and we sometimes get large groups, and sometimes we get silly and maybe make faces behind the kids. No. But we do have large groups sometimes, and we can now all fit out there and have a uniform background. But congratulations to you. Lovely artwork, and we usually will find a blank wall space somewhere to showcase your talents. All right, and Mr. Spiker, Jim, thank you so much. And I'm going to hand this to you for the Optimist Club.
Appreciate it. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Optimist
Yeah,
Club.
thanks so much.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank you.
Yep.
Job. Beautiful.
Okay, thank you. Just one more. So tonight is also Chair Dan White's last board meeting, and with the elections, there will be a transition of board directors. And I just want to say thank you for stepping in fourth time? Maybe? Fourth time? Who's counting? And just your real centered, steady leadership really served us well for the time being. And I first met you during strategic planning. And you and I engaged in a couple of conversations, unbeknownst that you didn't even know your whole history of how many times you've been on the board. And somebody said, well, you know who that was? I was like, a community member? Well, that was Dan White, like the Dan White.
Okay, everybody settle down.
Yeah, yeah. So, but I just want to say thank you, and I know that being on the board is not the easiest thing these days, and being the chair comes with added responsibilities and complexities. So, thank you so much for being that steadfast vision for us, and wish you well. And I won't say goodbye because there might be 5. And we have plenty of committees, and other opportunities to always, so I know you won't be a stranger, and I know you have a passion for high school sports, and so you will often be at many of our games as well. So thank you so much for your leadership, and
Thank you,
we will miss you. All right, and here's your certificate
Appreciate it.
as well.
Thank you very much.
And you'll probably have Martha have you step out there, or Christy, and get a guilty shot amongst the backdrop. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Chair White,
Yes.
just wanted to thank you for stepping up and being here. And not only that, but it's just like, yay, welcome aboard. Here, have the chair position. And
There was
that's
a little bait and switch that went on there, I'm convinced, but that's all right.
very much.
Thank you, Jess. Appreciate it.
I'd also like to say something too. I want to say thank you. You are a deep well, and I will draw from all of the things that I've learned from you this past year.
I'd like to say thank you also for stepping up and also for the incredibly smooth transition this year. It was very, very helpful. I appreciated your wisdom.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay. Let's move on. To the superintendent's report, Michael.
All right, thanks again. Just a couple of quick things. Obviously, we just had our school board special election, and I would like to congratulate Dustin Smith for getting chosen to serve the board. I also want to thank Mr. Conlon for his tireless efforts as well. I can't imagine what both of you went through in terms of the time and commitment to share yourselves with our community. And so congratulations to Dustin as he gets appointed to the board. Also want to give recognition for American Education Week, November 17th through the 21st. People hear me say this a lot in our district. It doesn't matter what your role is. We're all educators in this district. We approach our functions differently, but we're all here to better the educational experiences for our kids. So this is a time when we honor our teachers, our educational support staff and for their service, and our substitute teachers as well, whether they're in-building subs or if they're through a contractor with Teachers on Call. We appreciate all the time that they give to our students. It's also a time where we recognize the importance of public education and the accomplishments of our students. So again, I want to thank all of our PLSAS staff, and along with our many parent volunteers and community members who volunteer that support our students throughout the school year. Just a quick note on kindergarten. Obviously, we have enrollment that happens all year long, but we have kind of these big windows of kind of kicking off, and so enrollment season is upon us. I'm proud to say we are welcoming in the class of 2039. Principals are hosting information nights December 1st at 6 p.m. at Jeffers Pond, and then the Spanish immersion parent panel is December 2nd at 6:30 p.m. at La Ola del Lago. And then the enrollment window, if you will, for the 26-27 school year for kindergarten across the board will open online December 11th. And then lastly, calling out more folks who are into the arts, and in this case, our performing arts. Our fall musical, Prior Lake High School is presenting Cinderella, the Enchanted Edition. And that's November 20th through the 23rd. These tickets go fast, and I'm not just saying that, they go fast. Even I can't swindle an extra one, because trust me, I've tried when I forgot one year. But I do want to say you can go to the website and get your tickets. And again, a huge thank you to Dave Tuma and team and all the staff that are at the high school, our parent volunteers. When you take a look at our performances, they are top notch. These sets are Broadway ready. I just am amazed at the type of work that and craftsmanship that goes into this, not only with the set and the scenes, but also the preparation that our students engage in. Top notch. So really want to invite our community out for that. Those are my updates.
Great. Do you want me to read this?
What's that? Is that on later? Did I get I kind of jumped ahead.
That's
Sorry.
okay. I'll read it anyway. That's fine.
I don't think you have to read the whole thing, but.
It's short. No worries.
Yeah.
Back to Dr. Thomas's recognition of American Education Week, I'm going to read the proclamation from the board. Whereas public schools are the backbone of our democracy, providing young people with the tools they'll need to maintain our nation's precious values of freedom, civility, and equality. And whereas by equipping young Americans with both practical skills and broader intellectual abilities, schools give them hope for and access to a productive future. And whereas education employees, be they custodians or teachers, administrators or clerical staff, bus drivers or media specialists, child nutrition staff or support staff, work tirelessly to serve our children and communities with care and professionalism. And whereas our district, the community hub bringing together adults and children, educators and volunteers, business leaders and elected officials in a common enterprise, now therefore the Prior Lake Savage Area Board of Education does hereby proclaim November 17th through the 21st, 2025 as the 104th annual observance of American Education Week. Again, thank you, Dr. Thomas. Moving on to the open forum. This is a 15-minute period of time set aside for the board to receive citizen input. Just ask that we have one speaker tonight, just ask that you'd honor the 3-minute period of time and speak as you would like to be spoken to. Our speaker tonight is Rick Olson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and School Board. Thanks for the opportunity to introduce myself. I'm Rick Olson, living at 3051 202nd Court East, Prior Lake, just outside the school district. Now, I'm the DFL candidate for Senate District 54, which comprises Shakopee, Prior Lake, and Jordan. It should be an open seat with the current chair, or current Senator Eric Pratt running for Congress. So, now I went to Stanford Law School to become a better agricultural business manager. Now that may sound weird, but I was a farm boy and I wanted to become an agricultural cooperative president, which I ultimately did in Renville in the 90s. But in 98, my wife had an opportunity to be a school superintendent in Michigan. Well, that was too good an opportunity for her to pass up, so I followed her this time, and I reinvented myself and became a school business manager for over 10 years. So during that time, I also enrolled in a PhD program in K-12 school administration because I like knowing what I'm doing. I completed all the coursework for the PhD, but did not write a thesis, so you don't have to call me doctor. When we came back to Minnesota 11 years ago, I became a school business manager in Foley near St. Cloud because you need a job to get a mortgage and so forth. So out of all that, you know, I know education funding, including Minnesota here. And I know money and I know how to balance budgets. So I also know the problems that school districts run into when you have enrollment declines. When I was a school business manager at Adrian Public Schools in Southeast Michigan, we started with 4,300 students. 6 years later, we had 3,700. Now, when you lose $700,000 of revenue each year and your costs are increasing, I know the problems of balancing a budget. You no longer have good options, you no longer have bad options, you only have ugly ones left. Hopefully, we never have that problem here. My passion is education because my dad died when I was 2 months old, leaving my mom to raise 6 kids on welfare in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Now, obviously, that was not easy for her. But her passion was get an education and work hard. And that's exactly what my wife and I have done now for 55 years. Frankly, we've prospered, we've lived the American dream. But the reason I'm running is I don't believe it's as easy for our younger generation, our kids and grandkids, to have the same opportunities that we've had, both educationally and occupationally. I don't like the world we're leaving for our kids and grandkids. So now Linda and I returned to Minnesota 11 years ago. So she could be a full-time daycare grandmother, and that's been great. But with my energy and my background, I don't feel I can just sit back and hope things turns out well. So thank you. I'd be very happy to meet with any one of you individually if you wish to do that in sometime in the future. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on to the approval of the business meeting agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So made.
By Director Mason.
Second.
By Director France. There's no discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries 6-0. Next is the consent agenda. This is a list of items that are considered to be routine in nature and will be enacted with one motion. If there is no one in the audience or here at the table that wants to separate one of these items out for a separate discussion and action, I will entertain this motion as a whole. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So made.
By Director Johnson, second by Director France. If there's no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries 6-0. And now we will move down to the resolution for the acceptance of gifts. And tonight we have 3 gifts. A gift in the amount of $790 from Chris Lyken for adaptive equipment for developmental adaptive physical education and unified programming. From Napa Auto in Prior Lake, we have a gift valued at $2,500 for tools and supplies for the tech ed department at Prior Lake High School. And then from the VFW of Prior Lake, an in-kind donation of a student wheelchair. I will entertain a motion to accept these gifts with gratitude.
Made.
By Director France, second by Director Olsted. This does require a roll call. I remember 1 out of 3, that's pretty good. Director Olsted,
Aye.
Director Johnson.
Aye.
Director Bullion.
Aye.
Director France.
Aye.
Director Mason.
Aye.
And aye, that carries 6-0. Moving down to personnel, we have a staffing reassignment. Director Cothern.
Yes, thank you, Chair White and Board of Directors. We just have another reassignment of a resource para to a 1.0 FTE center base. It's a cost-neutral request in response to the increasing student needs. The Elementary Life Skills Program requires additional center-based paraeducator support. This adjustment will be cost-neutral by redirecting current resource paraeducator hours to meet these needs. So we are seeking board approval for this reassignment to ensure the district continues to effectively support students and their growing needs.
I'll entertain a motion to approve this staffing reassignment.
So made.
By Director Bullion.
Second.
By Director Johnson. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries 6-0. There is no unfinished business, so we will move on to the new business portion of the meeting, the 24-25 audit. Director Ryder, would you like to make some introductions?
Yes, thank you. Tonight we have the principal from LB Carlson, who is our audit firm for the fiscal year 25, who's here, Jim Eichten, here to talk with us tonight about our fiscal year 25, that's the 2024-2025 school year financial audit report. And he has some slides he'd like to walk us through, and any questions that we might have then. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Members of the board, superintendent, members of the audience. My name is Jim Eichten. Thank you for the introduction. I'm with LB Carlson CPAs. That might not be a familiar name to you. My firm that I was previously with for 30 years, MMKR, merged with LB Carlson as of the beginning of the year. All of our staff and all of our team actually moved with the firm, so we're working with the same team and the same group, just under a new name with better logo, less name, less letters, more resources, probably most importantly to the district. My goal this evening is to present the audit report for the year ended June 30th, 2025. It is a requirement in state law that the district have an annual financial statement prepared. The district has decided and has been preparing for some time an additional added requirement or added bonus to the district, an annual comprehensive financial report, which is submitted to the Association of School Business Officials for Certificate of Achievement in Financial Reporting. So you'll see that particular document has been issued to the district and to the board this evening. It is my role with the district to provide an opinion on the financial statement and to prepare other financial statement related audit items as a correlation to the audit process. First and foremost, that includes testing of internal controls of that financial report that's being prepared, as well as your compliance with laws and regulations as it relates to that financial statement. Those requirements are guided by the Office of the State Auditor here in the state of Minnesota, who provides us guidance in that area, as well as the federal government, the AICPA, as well, providing audit standards to the district as part of this process. As part of the audit, I did issue what's called a management report, and in that management report, I summarized the audit results for the year. I'm going to touch on some of the most important elements of the audit results for the year so that you can get some sort of indication how the audit went as part of my presentation. So first of all, this audit takes place over quite a stretch of time. We started in June and issued the reports of maybe a week ago as part of the audit process. We didn't change the scope of the audit along the way. It's important to understand that we planned an audit using certain risk assessment tools, and if we were to change our audit process, we were required to report that. That did not happen this year as part of the audit process. One item of note is we were anticipating that we would be issuing what's called a single audit of federal awards at this time, which is a federal requirement that we audit any federal awards that you receive. The federal government hasn't issued guidance for June of 2025 as of today. There has been some delays in the issuance of what's called the compliance supplement. Originally, we anticipated it would have been issued by now, but it has not. So we're on hold in terms of issuing that particular document. We will follow up, Lisa and team, with those documents as they are issued. We can't really say at this time when, but we'll certainly be doing that at that time. Continuing on, in my management report, we did issue audit results for the non-federal award portion of the audit. First and foremost, we were able to issue an unmodified opinion on that financial statement. Unmodified is a clean opinion. It was the opinion, you're looking for, a good opinion in this case. In that opinion, we did emphasize implementation of accounting standard GASB Statement 101 on compensated absences. That particular emphasis of a matter really didn't change the opinion at all. It's still a clean opinion. It's just emphasizing there was a pretty significant standard there that was implemented in the reporting of those liabilities. As you can see on the PowerPoint, we did issue opinions on your internal controls over the financial audit. We did not have any findings to report, no weaknesses, internal controls, no compliance issues to report. And then I mentioned that your compliance with Minnesota laws and regulations, we did not have any findings in that area as well. Also, as part of the report, I do provide information on last year's audit findings. If you read the document, you'll note that the findings from last year were not repeated. So those findings were cleared, and we did not have any findings in those areas. It is important as a board to know and understand the prior year findings. We all hope that we don't have findings, but they do occur. And in the prior year, I reported to you that I hope that I could stand here and say the corrective actions that were needed to correct those findings were implemented, and they were. So that's an important good news. So all in all, we did not have any findings to report this year, as well as last year's findings were cleared. So in my report, there's my single audit comment. I will not go there. So in my report, I do provide information on financial results. We have a number of pieces of information on financial trends that I will look at. I'm going to cover some of the basics here. This particular graph does show some information on fund balances. Now, these fund balance percentages used here are the fund balance percentages used by the Department of Education. The district does use different calculations in their fund balance percentages, so be clear about that when you look at this data. But you can see that fund balances statewide have actually increased over the last couple of years, 2023 and 2024. Most of that related to some of the COVID-related funding that was coming from the federal government. At that time, to cover some costs in the districts. We anticipate going into 2025 that we're going to see some declines there because most of those programmings ended at the end of 2024. You can see on the blue line the district's fund balances as calculated by the Department of Education. And then 2025 data. And you can see some declines over the last few years in fund balance, and we'll get to some more specifics as I look at the individual funds later. And this is that graph. So for the year ended June 30, 2025, the financial report does report that the district had a decline in fund balance of roughly 1.4 million. The district's budget did anticipate a decline in fund balance of roughly 900,000. So you're about 460,000 more in decline than was anticipated in the revised budget that came forth to the board. This particular graph gets into very, very specific information on the types of fund balance categories, and you can see you went from 14.9 million in 2024 to 13.5 million. Most importantly is the unassigned number. The unassigned fund balance went from 9.9 to 9.6. Why that's important? The school board has adopted a fund balance policy. This fund balance policy states that you'll strive to maintain a minimum unassigned fund balance of at least 8% of the annual budget. And you can see on that particular line, the unassigned fund balance as a percentage of expenditures is declined to about 7.6. So you are below that particular threshold. So as an auditor, I've been asked many times related to this, well, what's next when we have this information? And I always say this information is now up to the administration of the district to take and look at the next steps. It's up to the board to take and make the decisions. It's really not my decision in terms of what to do with fund balances and how to go in terms of direction. I'm only here to report the information. But it's certainly important for the board to understand and know that where they're at from a financial perspective as it relates to that policy. So continuing on, I do provide information on revenues and expenditures. The district's revenues for the year were roughly $1.8 million more than anticipated in the budget. Most of that had to do with special education aid. There were some additional costs that incurred in last year, which were funded by special education aid. You also had some additional federal dollars that were received related to some entitlements that we're carrying over from last year. Overall, the district received about $5 million, almost 5.7 more revenue than last year. Most of the increases were in state sources for increased general education funding, special education funding, those types of things. And you did have an increase in the levy as well that's causing some increases in overall revenues. On the expense side, the general fund expenditures were over budget by about $1.8 million. A significant portion of that was in salaries and benefits, most again in the area of special education, as well as additional staffing needs that were necessary to operate the district. There also seems some increases in transportation costs. That particular statement I've stated probably in every presentation and will continue to say in every presentation of school boards around the metropolitan area. Transportation is becoming an increasingly significant cost area that's exceeding expectations in almost all school districts. So something to monitor and watch out for. On the expense side, the increase in expenses were about $2 million. Again, salaries and benefits were being the most significant increases. Costs for substitutes and special education programming was also stood out in the expenditure areas. The district does have a number of other funds: food service fund, community service fund. There's a debt service fund. You have an OPEB fund and a self-insurance fund. But the two that stand out to me are that are most important in terms of monitoring are on the PowerPoint presentation. The food service fund did experience an increase in fund balance. Overall fund balance actually exceeded budget expectations by almost $200,000, which is certainly a good trend. And then you can see in the community service fund on that particular page, that particular fund has seen very good financial results over the last 5 years presented. This year exceeding budget projections by almost $700,000 in the community service fund. And that's really an important discussion. I've had discussions at other school boards that community service funds were struggling and they were having to take money from the general fund to support those programs. And you not having to do that is certainly a good position to be in. So that ends the short discussion on the financial results. I did want to touch on some other items in my report. It is important that the district be aware and on top of new and changes in auditing and accounting. This year you had the implementation of the compensated absences, and next year there will be some accounting and updates for some financial reporting model improvements. One item of note, as I maybe didn't reference or talk about, the district did experience some turnover in personnel this particular year. I've worked with a business manager that was new for the district. I will suggest and state out loud that in general, when that happens in a district, you tend to see delays or challenges with audits. That did not occur here. This audit went very smoothly. The transition from one administration in the business office to another was seamless. We really did not experience any sort of delays or challenges when it comes to the accounting and auditing of this particular district, given, so kudos to the administration and the team here at the district for that particular statement. So that's the end of my presentation. So in summary, I was able to issue a clean opinion on the basic financial statements. We didn't have any findings to report. I followed up on the prior year findings. We did have the decrease in the general fund balance and the fund balance policy discussion. Also, the other areas of improvement in the other operating funds, talked about the implementation of the new accounting standards. And lastly, I just want to point out the statement there that I can't always state, and I will, and I do always state it. The district is very committed to the audit process and the results of the process. I generally and have always felt that I'm getting the information I need, and I'm getting the requests that I'm being made on a very consistent and constant basis, and that leads to good audit results. And you should all be committed to that. It doesn't always look like that. I'm just saying, and if it didn't, I would tell you. So, and that's not the case here. No findings and good audit results. So with that, I'll turn it over to anybody for questions.
Before we take questions, I will entertain a motion to approve the audit as presented. Director Boyan, second. Director Mason. Questions? Start. Jess, do you have anything? Let's go around the table.
Thank you. And thank you to Executive Director Ryder. That's a real testament to you coming in and just do the audit, please, you know, from day one. So thank you for that. Curious, and if you don't know the answer to this, completely fine. I just, you know, was curious when you said the community service special revenue. You don't get to say that to too many districts, and it's I mean, it's a great testament to our district, that's for sure. But I just wondered why not.
Why you're not struggling?
Why other districts are struggling with this particular
That's a great
area.
question. Lisa,
I'm
you got
putting
any?
you on the spot, I realize,
Yeah.
but just curious.
I would say that for community education services in districts, it can be very different depending upon the community and the needs and what is actually offered and how receptive the community might be to those offering of services and programming. If you have a good connection with your community and you're hitting the mark as far as what they need and what you can deliver on, I think then you see the positive results you see in the financials, because so much of community education is like running a business. It's like you have to generate the revenue in order to cover your expenses in order to run that program. They do not rely heavily on the state aid or the levy process. There's some, but most of the revenue generated in a community education fund is going to be those dependent upon the programming you're offering and the charges you're asking for that programming, and the community being receptive to that.
I'll add to that. When you look at the financial results, the community ed fund, really the revenues were as expected. You look at it, and it's expected 8 million. It's about 8 million in revenues, but the expenses are quite a bit below expectations, which shows strong fiscal management. They're not overspending. They're not spending resources they didn't have available to them, which is leading to, you know, good financial results. And that, again, maybe doesn't look like that way in other districts, but it certainly does here.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Director Franz.
You had started off discussing the federal audit piece, and I know that there's a lot of fluctuation, a lot of volatility right now. Can you help us understand the impact of that, what you anticipate going forward, and how it will impact us?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when the compliance supplement is what it's called, it's issued by the Office of Management and Budget of the federal government. They anticipated that it would have been issued in August, and that was well before some of the delays we're experiencing recently. So we were all very surprised that it wasn't issued previous to then. What's happened since the recent developments at the federal government, the Minnesota Department of Education has actually extended the deadline for submission of the single audit to mimic the federal deadline. So how do I say it simply, that everything is typically due to the state of Minnesota on December 31st. They've extended the single audit portion to March 31st of 2026. The federal deadline is actually March 31st of 2026. So now the two deadlines are the same. So we anticipate, to be truthful, that we'll issue the reports by the deadline. So there wouldn't be any impact at all to that. Now, I can't say that 100%. I don't know when I'm going to get the guidance. But the truth of the matter is we've done most of the work. We did our work based on a draft of the supplement. So to be truthful, if they issued the supplement today, I could issue my report tomorrow. All the work is done. But they might change it. So I don't know.
Does that go to the federal U.S. Department of Education?
Goes to the Office of Management and Budget.
Oh, okay, the OMB?
Yep, the
Okay.
OMB is where we submit it to, yeah.
All right, okay,
Yep.
thank you.
You bet.
Anyone else?
Going back to the general fund financial position, and given that we are currently under our policy threshold, and I know you said that often you are asked what's next, and you also said that that's up to the board and the administration. But I was wondering if you could just share any context in, at our last study session, we did have some, we did talk back and forth regarding what that looks like when we're facing all the cuts that we're facing. I'm just wondering, as an auditor, what maybe high-level context you can give of what districts may do with that when they find themselves under the policy threshold.
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, first of all, when we had an exit conference, Lisa and I did about this, we, meaning I and her, pulled out the policy. I mean, policy was pulled out, and what does it say? I believe there's an action item in there, if I can think about it again. Maybe you want to talk about this one, but it does say that the board will take action, I believe. Or what are the words in there? I can pull it out again. Go ahead.
Well, it states that we will strive to be at that 8.1, or 8%, excuse me. And since we are not, that is something that as we talk about the revision to the current year budget, as well as then the development of the 27 fiscal year budget, we're going to want to take that into consideration as we talked about with the 5-year projections you've seen last meeting. The fact of the matter is that there is a revenue compared to expenditure difference. However, given the language of the fund balance and the fact that we're below that mark, we may need to consider an additional amount that needs to be considered in order to restore that up to the level that we would expect it to be, or even project forward so that it is above that 8% mark. The challenge that you have are the numbers as you increase your expenditures. That changes the formula so that it takes more to reach that same 8%. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we have to be thinking about that, and when you project forward, consider that in the process. And so I think that's part of the work, is to firmly understand from the board exactly what that target's going to be, and if it's going to be 8%, as it has been in the policy, then we need to maybe adjust beyond just the revenue less expenditure amount for the coming year as we're planning.
I'm wondering also, and if you can't answer it, it is also completely fine. But I'm wondering, if, in your experience, how many districts have policy regarding unassigned fund balance? Is it the commonality that is it most common that there is that policy in place? Because yeah, I guess given this position that we're in, all the input I can receive
Right.
as we look forward
Sure.
to making the decisions that we're going to be faced with, I just appreciate any,
Sure.
Your experience, your context.
Yeah. Well, these are actually great questions. First and foremost, the question of do school districts have a fund balance policies in place? The answer to that is yes. I can't say right off the top of my head of all the clients we have, does anybody not? And that's the fact that there's probably one out there, but all do, right? The language is different. in all of the policies, subtly. The action items are different sometimes. Some boards, have it written differently that they take certain different actions. So, it's all a little bit different, but generally, yes. The percentages change differently in every policy. There isn't a consistent percentage used across the board. And the reason for that is why? Well, let me answer my own question. It really has to do with you as a district. This percentage should be you. It's your percentage based on what you are as a district, how big you are, how little you are, what are the programming needs you have, what is your cash flow. Sometimes districts are relying a lot on property taxes, which means they need a higher percentage. And some are relying more on state aid, you need a lower percentage. So sometimes it comes on the cash flow, and how does that look? So the idea, at least from me, is you need a fund balance policy, yes. The content of it is really board and administration's decision-making and what they should be doing. Best practice in the kind of the moving forward perspective is typically audit reports come out right about now. Typically, you'll see districts amending budgets shortly after the end of the year. Typically, January is usually a revised budget, and that's, you're shaking your head, that's what we typically see. So do you need to adopt your budget change, adopt this tomorrow? Probably not, but best practice would suggest that that's going to be something you'll do in the near future. And so that's what I would look for if I were looking from an outside in, like, hey, this should be coming from administration, a revised budget for the year that you're in forthcoming. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? All right, we have a motion and a second on the table. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries 6-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Moving down to the 26-27 budget update, Director Ryder.
I am going to move to the podium as I would like to share with you a document. And this is a lot of information, a lot of numbers on one page like this. When we had a conversation in our last meeting around a 5-year projection, there was some question and concern around how large the numbers went from 26 adopted to the 27 projected forecast. And also the understanding of how does this compare to what was shared with the board in May of 2025. We're only a few months past that. Why does it look like it's so much different? So I did a little bit of work in taking the first 3 columns of this, and I'll make this a little larger as we talk through it, but I want to give you context for the whole page. The first 3 columns, and they say Q, R, and S at the top there. They have a yellow banner. Those are the the columns and the numbers are coming from your May 2025 5-year projections at that time. Then I took column T, which is our final budget audited. So pulling the budget from the audit report you have tonight that has been received. And then also taking a look under the audited amount under U for the dollars actually received and spent, okay? And then column V is intended to be taking that difference between that budget and actual spent for the audited fiscal year of 25, okay, that we just had an audit report on. So as I mentioned in our conversation last week, or last time we met, the fact is that when projecting forward, I had 2 choices. One was to ignore these facts that we knew are coming forward here, that being the results of the financial audit for 25, as well as secondly, the results of the anticipated budget adjustments for the current year, fiscal year 26, okay? There are some rather large boulders as a result of that, simply because the over expenditure we had in fiscal year 25 did surround a lot of the time with special ed. And because the funding for special education comes a year behind, that expenditures the over expenditure that you saw in fiscal year 25 audit, as it related to special education, also then generates some additional special education revenue for the current year that we do not currently have in our adopted budget. So the point of this exercise that I did was to essentially take into consideration column V, which would highlight the areas that need a little bit of work because we are under budget. We don't have enough budget to cover what we know will probably be the expenditures again, right? And then if you look at column X, those are those large boulders I talked about. This is not complete, but this will be included in the recommendations that you see coming forward to you in November on the 24th in the, for the revised fiscal year 26 current year. So with those two areas being noted and considered, but you hadn't yet seen, right? That is the reason why you see the jump as it seems to be in some of these line items. And so in taking those two into consideration, I'm adding column X, I'm adding column R, and that becomes then what I'm then comparing to my forecasted numbers for FY27. And that difference in column AA is then showing you, well, what's that percentage difference looking like? So a couple of notes on that. Actually, I'm very pleased with seeing the percentages as they are because it tells me that we're not that far off. I do see that the line items can be a little bit concerning, and I think that's because from year to year, things change as far as like you might have elementary and secondary instructors who are teaching certain courses, and then the next year, as is the case now for 26, that we have more people showing up into the vocational because some of the coursework that they're teaching is actually eligible under the vocational and career technical education, and we want to make sure that we're recording it under that area. So it's a different line item, but essentially if you took the elementary and secondary regular instruction, the vocational education, the special education services, and even to some extent the instructional support services, that's your classroom people, right? Those are your support structures for our kids. And if you take those and take a look at those amounts that you see in the columns and the line items in total, those percentages are coming out right where we would expect them to at around 5 to 6%. So I wanted to share this with you. It is something that if you're going to look at this document, I recommend you zoom in so you can see it better and just kind of understand then what's the progression. It was my attempt to try and make sure that we had an understanding of where were you in May before I was here. How did I come up with the numbers I presented to you for 27 and kind of helping you get there because I had not shown you yet the audited figures and you had not, and you still don't have yet the revised budget for the current year, but there are some major changes there as a result of the audited numbers.
Questions?
No, but I just want to say thank you for putting this all together. I think it's super clear. We took some time and walked through it, so I really appreciate it.
Very helpful. Appreciate it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, moving down to the elementary attendance boundary final recommendation. Director Powers.
We'll do a real summary real quick. If anyone has questions about anything at that, ask at any time, because we've all seen this. This is a couple of times now. Why we're doing it? We're closing a location to a neighborhood school. We're relocating Loyola Del Lago to Westwood. We're going to be selling the district services center, and we're going to be moving all the people that are housed here over to the site at Grahamwood. There's our original boundaries, the ones we're under right now this current year. Minimum criteria for our scenarios: contiguous boundaries within capacity limits, 4 sections per grade per building, ensure equitable access to programs and learning opportunities for all, and cannot significantly increase cost of transportation. In order to create these scenarios, we had some assumptions. We pulled the Loyola Del Lago students out of there, and we pulled the open enrolled students out of there. all IDT students were returned to their home school. This allowed us to create the base numbers that we were able to create those scenarios with. The Finance and Operations Committee, Advisory Committee narrowed it down to 2 scenarios. We have scenario C, and we have scenario E. Scenario C, due to the locations of the students, would require us to do a start time change for 2 locations. Initially, we have 580 students that would be affected by moving location for different schools, and 990 students, approximately, depends on which locations we finally chose for which was going to change the start times, which brought up 990 students on that one, which brings up to a total of about 1,570 students being affected for that. Scenario E did not require any start time changes, but it does affect more students moving different schools, total of 679. There was something in here that we did a little bit deeper dive, and it's not reflected on this particular page, but I wanted to make sure everyone understood this particular stat that we pulled up. Once all of the students were pulled back in for open enrollment, and once we counted for everybody that was in these classes to begin with, the enrollment at every location averaged out to be 85%. That's total enrollment for all locations, average 80%. The high in scenario A, or scenario E, excuse me, was 80% initially. When we finish out bringing all the open enrolled students back to where they were, that's not accounting for any changes that they may choose, we're sitting at 89% for the high school. And then the lowest one, not counting Lola del Lago, that's a separate little thing. The low we were looking at was 78%-ish, rounded numbers, right around there. So that's where we ended up with the capacity, the overall capacity at 85% across the board. That still allowed us to have, all the classes were underneath our cap, our discussion cap for all of the locations. So we felt that we were hitting all of those little markers that we had talked about the entire time, and it balanced it all out. The reason that the recommendation from our committee, a unanimous recommendation from our committee, was to shoot with, to proceed with scenario E. Part of the reason for that was that the way it organizes around the district, it allows for expansion in several areas that we know we will have growth in. And kind of makes it so that each location can absorb those students as we get the growth in those areas. Scenario C isolated a little bit Hamilton Ridge, so that not necessarily the most future-proof. Any questions at that point?
Dr. Johnson.
Do you have the full, after you bring the open enrolled back in, comparison C to E?
C.
Have that
Or-
one posted.
Because I think you only told it, I know you just told us E.
For which number?
C.
The open enroll.
Letter C.
I guess I'm still confused on what you're asking
Open
for.
enroll.
When you bring in open enrolled,
All
What is
all the same percentages are going to be the same. It's still going to be 85% capacity across the board. The only thing that will change is scenario C, is the school that will be at 90% changes to a different location. But the still overall capacity is still at 85%. That's just our overall capacity that we have with those number of schools.
Anyone else? Or Charles, get another one?
I can see you're thinking about something.
it's going. You said that, and that thing started going, so.
Dr. Mason.
I have a question
I think
slash
we're on the same
statement, maybe.
right?
First,
yeah.
I mean, I know we talked about scenario E and finance committee, and that had overwhelming support. I think that was maybe, I guess, first of all, I wanted to ask you, does that align with your recommendation, if you had a preference? Maybe if you could answer that. Sorry to put you on the spot.
I will give my recommendation with the caveat that
Sure.
I'm looking at this from a very different lens than all of you are. There are things that I see about these scenarios. I mean, I created most of these scenarios to try and find different ways we could look at the district and how we could best move the students around with affecting them the least. But I also wanted to look at how the balance was around the district and how that my personal overall goal was I would love to see these boundary scenarios last for 10 years or longer. Is there a chance of that? Yeah, there is. Because even if we look at the potential growth in all of these parts of the school district, scenario E still has that potential to be able to absorb all of those areas easily, not necessarily, but I think it has the highest potential to survive for the longest amount of time. So my recommendation would have been scenario E.
I think, like, along those lines, I certainly leaned that way initially, but then I think looking at the recent enrollment numbers that we have, like, are we actually, given the decline in enrollment, are we actually going to be looking at, reducing even more space in 3, 4, or 5 years? I guess that's the question in my mind that I just, should we be trying to future-proof, given the decline in enrollment? I know nobody can project the future, but that's just the only kind of thought that has come up since our last meeting, I guess.
Director Mason, if I will, and I think this goes to Director Johnson's question, our overall fill rate, given our open enrollment from scenario C or E, doesn't change. So in terms,
Right.
and so if you're looking at enrollment changes, it doesn't matter which one of these. If that pattern continues, no matter C or E, we would have to have future conversations. I think the thing that scenario E, and first I'll just say, obviously, all of these scenarios are impactful, the ones that we've looked at. There's not a perfect scenario, and I just want to honor, our community and the work that we are unfortunately having to go through, knowing that there's going to be some impacts across the board. We know that this is also going to be impactful to our staff. And so I'd be remiss to not acknowledge that level of emotion and reality that's going to be before us, starting tomorrow. And, going back to your question, when we think about the future proof, if you will, just keep using that term, I also lean towards E because if our enrollment does see an uptick, over the next 15 years, because that's kind of what we're talking about. We're not talking in the next 5 years. We have the greatest ability to be more adaptable. The one thing I'll say in this scenario, or in any scenario, for future, because people are saying, well, Michael, you're kind of hitting that 85 to 89% rate, and you're saying that's kind of like your sweet spot, and it is. So then we'd have to have different conversations about governing open enrollment. So that's the other factor that, should we get a surge in the future, then that will have to come into a play of the conversation of prioritizing then our resident growth juxtaposed to using open enrollment to continually fill seats. So there's a lot of ebb and flow that each of these scenarios has. I would just say that in conversations with people, and we even heard it on our own committee, you're going to have 6 on one and half a dozen on the other. Some people are saying moving the school is the true impact, and changing start times is not really an impact. And then we hear just the opposite. Changing a start time would be detrimental to our family with our work schedule. Please don't do that. I mean, you've seen all the emails that we see as well. So when I think about impact, I do have to think about total impact. The actual physical move and the redistribution of Westwood in addition to all the other impacted schools and the potential impact on start times. So that cumulative impact is very real from my vantage point, and it's something that I'm very mindful of. And like I said, some members of the community or staff might feel different, but that's just a big conversation that we've been having that continually moves us towards E.
Before we have any more discussion, we have a recommendation. I'll entertain a motion to accept the administration's recommendation of scenario E.
So made.
By Director Bullion.
Second.
By Director France. Any further discussion or questions?
Yes.
Director Olsted.
Please. Would you mind explaining, you mentioned something about Hamilton Ridge. Can you repeat that again?
Scenario
What did you
C,
say?
it isolated Hamilton Ridge more towards the center of the district, which is one of the reasons that wasn't my recommendation.
Why?
It doesn't allow for, I'll go up to the map again. Oops. So you can see the Hamilton Ridge in this particular scenario is all the fuchsia or pink color in here. And as you're looking at it, there's only one area of growth that is going to happen or likely to happen in that area, and that's over by the quarry. But you're looking at Red Tail, there's significant areas that could potentially grow. If you're looking at Glendale, north of the actual school, there's a lot of property that could potentially grow. If you're looking at the area around 42, there's a lot of different areas over there that could be high growth. You understand what I'm getting at, the more likely areas to grow. But this isolating Hamilton Ridge in this area, I think that if we went with scenario C, you would, or whoever the board is at that time, would end up looking at redistricting again to rebalance things. Or at the very least, closing open enrollment in different locations and causing other challenges with that.
In how many years did you say?
I don't
Roughly.
have a guess on that, but if you really wanted me to throw a number out, I'd say within 4 to 7 years. And that's just, it's, there again, it isolates one particular area. It creates a tiny bit of an island. And that is a perfectly acceptable map. That's it, the way things are going, if the district didn't change number-wise, that would be perfectly fine. But when I was aiming for, we mentioned this a lot, future-proofing, that if things were to change, if we were to start increasing our enrollment in that 5 to 15-year range, pick a number, that scenario E could better adapt without having to go through and reboundary again.
Yeah, this one was hard. These decisions are never easy. You just look at the numbers, total students affected, to your point, Dr. Thomas, there's not an elementary school student that won't be affected in some way, whether it's, friends or classmates and things like that, and you just kind of look at the total affected, and start times is a real thing. It's, that means an extra hour of daycare potentially, and payment for that daycare, and a change of work schedule, and potentially, and, all of those different things. So start times is a real concern. Yeah, you just look at the number, the total number. And yeah, this is I'm not being very eloquent right now, but this one's a hard one. This is a real hard one.
Other questions? Did you ever, when you say there'd be start time changes that would be required at 2 locations, did you get down the road, would those be making the start times earlier, later, one of each?
One of each. So the challenge is that the number of buses available with our company, when Westwood only needed 5 buses. So that one of the bigger schools would need to switch to the time frame of that, and one of the smaller schools would need to switch to the earlier time. So yeah, it would narrow it down. Hamilton Ridge is the only one we really would not want to change start time on. because of the center-based students and about a few other things that were involved with that. But the most likely scenario that we were looking at was Red Tail switching with Jeffers Pond and changing start times for those two.
Okay. Anything else? Yes, Director Johnson.
In scenario E, is that the one I'm looking at? Yes. How close is Hamilton Ridge on your boundary line there? I'm just looking at your map.
Okay.
It's basically, it's Hamilton almost looks like it's in.
Oh, yeah, where that boundary is on the north side?
Yeah.
It's a good question, and that was actually one that I really struggled with trying to find a good spot for it.
Yep.
So there's a land divide, if you look over there.
Yep.
South of the high school and just north of Hamilton Ridge.
Okay.
There are no neighborhoods that connect in either
Got it.
direction in that area. So it ended up being a really good boundary spot so
Okay.
that I could keep the neighborhoods as concentrated as I possibly could.
Okay.
And the natural flow of traffic coming out of those neighborhoods was going northbound versus the Hamilton Ridge side coming from the south side.
Okay, awesome. I appreciate that. I figured with the map, just the way that you had to do it.
It's a tight looking
Yep,
boundary, I agree.
Understand. Yep, thank you.
All right. If there's no other questions or comments, we do have a motion and a second on the table. All in favor of scenario E signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries 6-0. Director Powers, we'll move on, if you want to just stay put, to a brokerage recommendation for the sale of the district office.
Let me see where that one is. Oh, okay. I did provide all of you with copies of the responses that I got from Transwestern and from Saron. After a really close review of both of them, there were two things that really popped up that made the recommendation more solid for me. The first one was the approach that they took. One of them looked at maximizing value for the district. The other one looked at more of how they saw the potential use of this particular space. And the other thing that really stood out was one of them actually mentioned specifically having a different rate, a contract rate, if they were both the selling agent as well as the listing agent, or the buyers and sellers. So, and that was Saron Properties for both of those. Both the approach and the spelling out of the different rates, to me, made a strong recommendation for them.
Okay. Well, I'll entertain a motion to accept Saron Properties for the brokerage firm to sell this building. Is there a motion by
Second.
Director Johnson, second by Director France? Any discussions or questions? Mary?
Director Powers, first of all, I totally agree with you when I read over the RFPs about the difference. But I do have a question because there was an adjoining piece of land to here that was also for sale. I know that they can't put anything in their RFP about that, but I was wondering if there was discussion about that and maybe a co-sale or whatever based upon use.
Yes, I really don't want to mention more than that.
Okay, that's
because
fine. I understand.
There are, yeah, there were some other things that I could talk more privately about. I don't think that's an appropriate thing to bring out in a public forum.
Right.
But, yeah, that was mentioned.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did they, and I know that they can't put anything to guarantee because you have no idea what the market's going to do at any one point in time. With regards to their proposed use of this property, it did seem more towards office space use rather than any other use or somebody gutting it and making it something totally different. Is that the impression that you got and you thought?
That was one of the impressions, yeah.
Okay.
Saron Properties definitely has the approach that this space is usable more in its current function, even as a building.
Okay.
And Transwestern in reading the RFP and in some of their discussions, we're looking at more of a redevelopment side, and I'm not disagreeing with either one of them. I just think the approach that Sarin was taking is more in alignment with getting a better price for us. And that was, in all honesty, that's my higher determinant right there.
It did seem more palatable towards a more immediate use, and therefore a higher sale point.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
All right, if there's no other questions or discussion, we have a motion and a second on the table. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? That carries 6-0. Thank you, Director Powers. All right, moving on to the school year calendar start end dates. Director Cawthorn. Can you take it?
If I may start,
Sure,
Chair?
absolutely.
So a couple of weeks ago, we came to the board trying to gauge whether or not we should start before or after Labor Day, given the statute changes. And there, for us, this really begins, this would allow us to start setting our staffing and registration calendars. The overall calendar of the school year, the committee is still in the works of developing various scenarios, but for us in our staffing, we needed to really kind of set our target date. And just given where we're at with the magnitude of work that we had in our hopper right now, and the confusion that we thought it would also bring the community to do a survey on start times, juxtaposed to boundaries and school times and all that, we wanted to just kind of keep that separate. So we are recommending that for next year, well, I'm sorry, let me just back up. A couple of you asked about what other districts are doing. There's about 3 districts that are keeping status quo in the current calendar format of your traditional after Labor Day. And the remaining districts are leaning towards, if they have not already approved calendars, to start before Labor Day. We have done some surveys in the past in our own community around calendaring, specifically around spring break. We've had discussion about before and after Labor Day, but we've never done a survey for that. Our survey actually was around, should we do spring break 3 weeks earlier or keep it in that first week of April? And as you can imagine, with probably most calendar ideas, half the community wanted it in 3 weeks earlier and half wanted it in the first week of April. So just, we believe that now that some of this more consequential decisions needed to be made is cleared, we are going to intend to poll our community in the January-ish timeframe to assess the before and after Labor Day start for the following year, not next fall, as well as poll around the bookend model of holiday to holiday. That was another conversation you all asked us to explore. That's not being done anywhere around here. That's our own internal, calls with our colleagues. And I'm talking metro area, maybe outside of metro. There's some of that might be happening. We did talk with Martha to do a quick run. Like I said, our team is mocking up calendars right now, and we'll probably finish that and have some drafts for you in 2 weeks at the study session. But when we mocked that up, given our minimum day requirements as well as our instructional hour requirements, the big question will be, how short do you want winter break? Do you want a spring break? And how short will Thanksgiving break be? So to make that work, again, this is just our first pass on looking at days and what we have available to us. Minimum teacher contract days are 185. I think I got that, 185. So we can't mess with that number, and we also have state requirements of hours of instruction that I shared with you all about a week or so ago as well. And that leaves us about a 3-day buffer in terms of inclement weather days. So the reality of a holiday to holiday is going to come with some significant sacrifice, but that's something that we'll bring forward in a future discussion with you all. So our recommendation is actually for next year to keep our current status quo of this calendar of where we're at, and then do a deeper poll with our community in that January timeframe for the fall of 27 and beyond as to whether or not we would want to look at the before or after, and then also test the viability of, are you willing to make significant sacrifices in other kind of protected break times throughout the year. So that would be our recommendation, and that's where we would lean towards from our staffing, so that we can begin that staffing process, registration manual process, knowing that our current model for next year, we would still be in the single digits of June by the time we get out of school. So it's not a significant change, it's just, it's an option, which we would have never opened up this option conversation had it not been, you know, a statute that would allow us to exercise that. So, Director Cawthorn, is there anything that I might have left out and with the team?
No, I just, yeah, we're meeting this Thursday, next Monday, so our plan is to then have those drafts ready for you to review at the 24th study session. But yeah, it's my understanding that the big thing is just for our enrollment piece to get going, that they need kind of an idea of a rough start and end date so we can get those enrollments set up.
Okay. So we just need a consensus basically on, because this will be a calendar that will be eventually voted on.
This would be a one-year calendar that we're proposing to keep our current calendar cycle for next fall.
But you're just asking for consensus on a start and an end tonight.
To start after Labor Day and to end, you know, June 9th.
With the following year, 27, 28, yet to be discussed.
Yet to be discussed and vetted with the scenarios that we're going to bring to you on the 24th.
All right, so we do not need official action, just.
Official action for next fall, that we're going to keep status quo for next fall.
Okay.
And that our bigger changes, if any, will come through community survey data, which may find to be inconclusive, but you'll also see various formats of what that could possibly entail.
Okay.
Next 2 weeks from now.
Then I will entertain a motion to accept the administration's recommendation of keeping the current calendar parameters of starting after Labor Day for the 26-27 school year.
So made.
By Director Bullion, second by Director Johnson. Further discussion, questions? Okay, all hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries 6-0. And then moving down to policy. We have a second and final reading for policy 722. Director Cawthorn, any significant changes from our last discussion?
Yeah, we added the paragraph that Director Atkinson pointed out, and so that has been added into the policy.
All right. Director France.
Director Cawthorn, in the first draft we had, Emily Herman's name was off, and now it's back on. In the draft that's here, it says data practices contacts Emily Herman.
That should not be there.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's never
No, I
going
guess,
away.
yeah, that is not the case, so we will have to make sure that's corrected.
All right.
Chair, with that quick typo oversight didn't carry over in the second draft, if the board were to take action on this tonight with the caveat that that name obviously would be changed.
Okay. That's what I assumed.
Thank you, Director.
Yes. So I'll entertain a motion to approve policy 722 with said change.
So made.
By Director Johnson.
Second.
By Director France. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries 6-0. Are there any administrative reports? Director Ryder.
I have just two comments. The first being, since Mr. Eichten had mentioned the fact that there was a smooth transition from their perspective for the audit, love to take credit for that, but to be honest, coming in here, we have a very strong team, and Andrea Bradford did a wonderful job of managing and completing that audit work papers and getting everyone else to get their work done as well. So just kudos to her because she made that happen. Secondly, I do need to share with you some information that we have learned. We have learned from MDE, Food and Nutrition Services, that their interpretation of the federal regulations have changed, and in order to comply with the new guidance, Prior Lake High School must participate with the National School Lunch Program and the Breakfast Program within this school year. Breakfast will continue to be free on school days for Prior Lake High School students, but menus will be updated to meet the National School Breakfast Program requirements. Lunches will soon be free for the Prior Lake High School students on school days, and menus will be updated to meet the National School Lunch Program requirements, consistent with the rest of the district. Beginning on January 5th, when students return from winter break, breakfasts and lunches will be free.
Thank you, Director Ryder. Any questions or anything?
Yes.
Go ahead, Director Olsted.
Does this, I mean, still there for middle school, and this is just for the high school, correct?
Yes.
So want to make sure, this is coming down from MDE. I just want to make sure that, how will this be communicated to students? We did that survey last year, and there were some, you know, comments about the survey and things like that last year, duly noted. But since going off of it in the first place was student-driven, how are we communicating that to the students? Free is free and it's great, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But
Yeah, Director Olstad,
student-driven.
we have, Director Malone will come forward too. Just know that we've been working with Christine team to get a comprehensive communication. We've alerted leadership, we've talked with food service staff, and I'll let Emily speak to a little bit about that, but we also have a more comprehensive public-facing message as well that will go out to the families. With that, Director Malone, if you want to chime in on that.
Hi, everyone. The Prior Lake High School staff will get an email tomorrow, and then we'll be sending, in that we'll have the details of what we're going to send to families, and then after that is sent, we will send to families grades 8 through 12 the same general message.
Thank you.
Director
Yeah.
Johnson.
Question.
Yes.
Why?
So the Prior Lake, the Minnesota Department of Education Food Nutrition Services team has grown over the last few years. We've had 2 administrative reviews since going off of the National School Meal Program at the high school. And because we were off of the National School Meal Programs, the Prior Lake High School was not in the matrix of any of those reviews. And this year, the way that the team is interpreting the regs, the Prior Lake High School expenses and revenues are in a restricted fund with all of the other funds, and therefore their interpretation now is that Prior Lake High School would need to follow the same rules as the restricted fund defines. It's a very complicated thing. So it's a big pot of money, Fund 2.
Sure. Yeah.
Everybody's in it. All the expenses and revenues for child nutrition services are in that pot of money. And because the high school's expenses and revenues come in and out of that same pot of money, it is in the restricted fund and therefore has to follow the restricted fund regulations.
Okay. And I assume that you weren't breaking any rules last time.
It's a new interpretation of the regs. The regs have been the same for as long as
somebody new came in?
perhaps.
There's new interpretation of regulations.
Okay, got it.
May or may not be new people, but there's a new interpretation.
All right. So just correct me if I'm wrong, because I wasn't sitting here before, but didn't the board vote on this, and shouldn't we vote to do it now? What happens if we say no? It's just a question, right?
The question that I have asked as well, and do you want to let
Because-
us know what that
because,
ramifications would be?
No,
I
think Director Johnson,
personally, I thank you, and thank you, because I know this isn't your choice, and I know it's not your choice to sit here and take these questions from us. Like, I would love the person who did the audit to come here and explain this to us and why it is. Because we're one of 2 schools in the state that are doing this.
One of one now.
One of one. thank you.
Well-
One school in the state that are choosing this program, and it just feels like we're being targeted, in my personal opinion.
So Byron also got the same news that we got, so now they are going back on the National School Meal Program as well, so they've interpreted, they're being told the same thing that we're being told, and they've just really made it impossible for us to stay off.
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer to your question is, though. What would happen, I don't know.
And Director Johnson, we've been asking these questions for several months. Emily and her team have really been advocating for what we believe is the voice of our community in terms of what they wanted. As Director Olsted said, yep, there are some that might have wanted the Universal Meals Program. Overwhelmingly, we had the support to doing this. And this was heavily driven initially by our students and families, and that's something that we honored. And going back to our strong desire for local control, here's a great example of when it's not, the challenges that we're in. I almost said pickle, but I didn't want to have a food pun here. But it just presents the challenges when we don't have local control, and then we have to carry this message to the community of which would not be our choice. I asked Director Malone what would happen. And you all know, and I'll say this publicly, and I know it's recorded, I will never willingly break the law. Will I really push the parameters to do what we believe is best for our communities within those laws? Absolutely, I will. I will not stop doing that. But the interpretation of the regulation is the department's law, the equivalent of the department's law. It's not something that I or Emily or anybody else would willingly do. I think the infrastructure also required that they would expect of us. We don't have the resources to even go through the process of kind of bifurcating financial systems, figuring out how we would have internal controls to address staffing chargebacks. So I can't charge all of custodian salary, only portions, so who will track and monitor that? We don't have the resources for that. We also are part of big group or co-op bidding for milk, bread, and other food, big systems. We would be on our own and competing in a market that we would never be able to get competitively priced for. We probably wouldn't even be able to afford to do it because we're not getting the co-op, prices. So if I'm being honest and just giving you Michael's response, I think we've been backed into a space where we have no choice but to comply, even structurally. Ethically, yeah, we could debate this all day long. But structurally, we don't have the infrastructure to do it. One of the things that I would just encourage the board, one of the things I would encourage our parents, when we talk, in a couple of weeks, we're going to be talking about a very skinny legislative agenda. Spoiler alert, local control, no more unfunded mandates, and fund the ones that you have or repeal them. Pretty simple. And this is where our community's voice actually matters. And so I would just ask all of you, if you have a thought or a perspective, to bring that voice into St. Paul. Collectively, many of us will be doing that. But I think that's where the conversation, can be directed. But we will still provide high-quality food, lunch, and all that, even when our students are probably eating 2 or 3 meals, our athletes, right? We're going to do what we need to do to make sure our students are taken care of. But it's not the ideal state.
Yeah, no disrespect to anyone here. I just don't like that this was thrown on here. And
We'll have more opportunity, Director Johnson, to provide, context, in a different format. But we also knew that communication was out there and was already starting to float through circles. So we wanted to at least bring this forward for awareness so that we can do our due diligence to properly notify folks. But I do believe this conversation may not be the last.
Director Mason.
Can I just ask a question about the impact to sort of the meals we're offering or nutrition that we're offering students? Like what types of changes can they expect?
So going on the National School Meal Program at the high school will mean that we serve more meals and less a la carte. So we're kind of changing that, business model. So we're gonna have more lines that are reimbursable meals and less lines that are a la carte.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And there were,
The cafe would still remain with reduced espresso or something, right?
You can do certain things. You can do, for example, a skinny latte, 8 ounces of skim milk, sugar-free syrup, and a shot of espresso.
you can't mousse it though if you don't want to. It's a caribou thing. Like you can't like you can't mousse it, right? Like 2 shots or 3 shots. Like you're kind of it is real. It's a real thing. Right, you can't, if
Correct,
you wanted
yeah.
a triple espresso or something like that, you're gonna be told no, or,
Correct,
something
yeah.
like that.
Yeah,
And
and
there's-
even like extra pumps, even if it's a sugar-free syrup, it'll still have calories. You can have a certain number of
Yeah.
calories per 8 ounces, per 10 ounces, per 16
And there's
ounces.
portion issues, right? Like the portion sizes are gonna be different
The
now.
portion sizes of
Which
the
was part of the
meals.
reason the students wanted to not be on this program, was for things
More
like that
variety
too.
and choice, yeah.
Yeah.
And paid extras is still an option.
Paid extras
Right.
is still an option. When we switch over on January 5th, it's going to be mainly meals, because we're just gonna try and feed everybody, and then we'll add things back, possibly at the coffee shop, and possibly some hot à la carte and cold à la carte and stuff. The cafeteria itself is not really set up for this, so we have to figure out lines, stanching lines and kids and stuff, so they can all get in and out of there quickly.
Chair White, that's, I'll just say, I mean, that's essentially the update that we want to provide. And I would just invite any of you to sit with Director Malone and myself as necessary for contextual, as well as potential future conversations and where you could bring your voice.
Okay, thank you, Emily.
Yep.
Can I ask one last question? I
It
promise
takes less
it's
than
easy.
25 seconds.
Yep. You got praise this evening from the auditor on your finances. How much is this going to impact you?
Well, that's a tough question, because there's so many variables going on right now.
Yep. Sorry
We
this
just
is
kind,
gonna
it's
take
okay,
longer
yeah,
than
it's a
25
little bit
seconds,
longer.
but-
We're third year into free meals for kids, so I just almost have a trend of 2 years in a row.
Yep.
And so I can kind of project, I can kind of project, but I can't really answer that question right now. So,
Okay. We'll connect. I
right.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so
yeah,
much.
Thank you.
If there's no other administrative reports, we do have Director
Yes.
Cother.
In the consent, there was a retirement, so we just like to draw attention to that and recognize that here in the report. It was Joan Friedland, who was the child nutrition site manager at Red Tail Ridge for 26 years. She's been with the district. And speaking of Director Malone, I asked her for a quote or some insight, and she said that Joan has been at many schools. Her longest term was at Grainwood before it was Lowell Del Lago. She's a great leader in our department and always willing to be our test kitchen for testing new recipes. And so she just wanted to thank Joan for her dedicated service to the district.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, moving on to board reports. Obi, do you have something this evening?
So a bunch of great things happening at the high school per usual. Students just finished off the first quarter strong, utilizing resources like Laker Time and peer tutoring. Students are ready to start second quarter off strong, get a good push going towards Thanksgiving and winter break. Fall sports are wrapping up, so girls volleyball got second in the entire state, so that was pretty awesome. Girls soccer got third in the entire state, and then our football team were section runner-ups. Boys and girls cross country also had great performances at state, and so a really good fall athletic season for Lakers. And we got winter sports coming up. I know girls hockey, they just had a win on Thursday, and boys hockey tryouts were today as well. And basketball and wrestling will be prepping for their seasons as well. Like Dr. Thomas mentioned earlier, you got the Cinderella play coming out next week. I know I'm pumped to go and watch it. Hopefully you guys can go and get some tickets as well. And our choir is prepping for their winter concert as well, so that'll be big. And finally, for arts, band has had the opportunity to perform at U.S. Bank because of the girls' soccer, and then Grand Casino Arena, or formerly known as XL, because of the girls' volleyball. So our band has been playing at some big venues, and they've been doing a great job. And then finally, for student council, we've been doing a lot of great community service, partnering with our Junior Optimist Club and National Honor Society. For some upcoming stuff, we have Feed My Starving Children on the 21st. We are hosting a turkey trot on the 26th. And our vice president actually had the opportunity to go to Farmington to meet other student reps at a leadership conference. I know Martha and Dr. Thomas were there. She came back with plenty of great ideas to connect the board more closely with students. And so we'll be conducting more student surveys to gather real student feedback and really just trying to bridge the gap between the board and the students to connect it all together. So thank you.
Thank you. We'll just go around the table. Director Olstad, do you have anything this evening?
Sure, although Obi stole all of mine. That's okay. Very quickly, Southwest Metro, I sent you all a board meeting recap, but just for the public's awareness, a few highlights. Dr. Thomas was our guest superintendent last month, so thank you for being there. During this meeting, Dr. Horton, the superintendent, presented his annual meeting, which is kind of like our state of the district, and went through a couple of highlights. One of my favorite stats from that was a lot of things, but one of my favorites was that staff is made up of 5 different generations, which I thought was really interesting. You don't see that very often. Their audit started last week, so we'll get a report on that pretty soon. And the board voted to put in some paid leave language to some contracts, including Superintendent Horton's. So there's going to be more next month for Southwest Metro, but those are the highlights from last month's meeting. And then teaching and learning, I don't want to steal all the updates from Director France, but we discussed the new reading pilot. So it was really, really great, hands-on, looked at materials, passed around the books, all of the things, and had a couple of teachers there, elementary teachers there, to really walk through what they're doing in the classroom, which is really, really beneficial as we look to approve those materials. So soon.
Thank you. Director Johnson.
Our student rep gave a lot of the ones that I wanted to. However, just as fall sports kind of are over and winter sports are coming into, and we've got plays and everything, just want to give a quick shout out to all of our parents and volunteers for everything that you have done to assist, especially when it comes to sections and state tournaments. I know that there is a lot that goes into that, especially with coordinating off-site locations and things like that. So thank you for everything you're doing when it comes to volunteering. We can't do it without you, so appreciate it.
Director Bullion.
Yeah. Last Thursday, we had our Community Ed Advisory Council meeting. Dr. Thomas was there to give an update, which was well received. It's always great having him there. Some other highlights, I just wanted to say, Community Ed, since being on the board, it's just really come to my awareness how much Community Ed supports our district. They also were given kudos during the audit tonight, and regarding their strong fiscal management and just their program is incredible. Their team is incredible. Director Olstad, when you asked about why maybe other communities, my answer was just the team. Our Community Ed team. A couple other things noted was just their brainstorming and trying to figure out how to turn their space, their the space that they're at to have the most impact and most opportunity for the community. So just, again, falling in line with their great stewardship. And then my second report would be on Strive. Strive, the Bridges Mentorship Program, the biggest ever. And yeah, I just am so impressed by that program and the impact that it has on those students. I'm so grateful to be part of it, and I'll leave it at that in case.
All right, Mary.
Oh, well, I was preempted twice now. Scale, I wasn't able to speak the last board meeting, so I just wanted to update everybody that the scale presentation should be online soon, but the scale presentation from a couple weeks ago not only dealt with the legislative priorities, which are going to be very much in line with ours, with no new mandates, take away all unfunded mandates. That's the one thing that they are absolutely, from the county perspective, supporting the school district on, and we're going to go over those again this Friday, but they also discussed school mental health along with Scott County mental health, with help from the superintendent of Belle Plaine, which is Superintendent Holden. I highly recommend, as soon as that PowerPoint presentation goes up, that people review those statistics and how the county and schools work together and what they have found over the years. It was very informative and extremely relatable to our own district. This week in Scale on Friday, the schedule is also to do a final review of the legislative mandates that are going to be supported by the other members, member cities and municipalities within Scott County. And then the other piece of the agenda is to talk about the Prior Lake Spring Lake watershed, which should be very insightful also, considering the changes and the and all of the interactions, obviously, between Spring Lake feeding into Prior Lake and the actual watershed and where we are with our water tables. On the other side, the MnCAPS business partnership kicked off. My business is sponsoring another one this year, so I'm really looking forward to working with these students, and I encourage everyone in the community, if you have a business, whether it's located in Prior Lake or not, that you consider working with them. They're also looking for partners in healthcare and the other pathways. So one of the best ways you can partner with our students is actually give them some real-world experience. So I hope other businesses, people in healthcare, anybody that has an idea actually kicks in and supports this program. Strive kicked off, as Director Bullion mentioned. Strive is sponsored by Rotary. This will be my 6th year being a mentor. It's one of the most rewarding times of my weeks when I'm able to go and meet with those students. It is absolutely incredible. You do not have to be a Rotary member to sign up for this. They're always looking for mentors of some sort every single year, so please take your time, go to get a free lunch and sit down with the student and make a difference in someone's life. And believe me, they will end up making a difference in your life as well. So as far as the teaching and learning, I don't want to take the shine away from Dr. Anderson because we haven't had a review of that meeting as well as the combined notes. But to piggyback on what Director Olsted said, we did go over a very detailed drill down into the reading requirements and the curriculum choices that our teachers are currently vetting, and the books and the workbooks of the different curriculums are available for parents to review. So I highly suggest that you go and read and understand the different types of the science of reading and how it's coming across in those workbooks and the different reading materials. It was very enlightening, and it was very encouraging, I would say. And then I'm also looking forward to attending the play this weekend, and the tickets are available. I got them right away, but they are going fast. I think at least one night's almost sold out.
Yeah, there was a little glitch, but I think they're going to fix it, and there's tickets, right? That Sunday, wasn't that kind of a weird one? Anyways, yes, there are tickets available.
Okay.
Go out.
But please get your tickets now as soon as the system or glitch or whatever comes back up, which I didn't know because I already had my tickets. And then I want to say congratulations to our state volleyball, our cheerleading squads that made, also are going to go on to state from what I understand from the last competition. And of course, soccer. So congratulations to them and congratulations and thank you to all the parents and coaches.
Thank you. Dr. Mason?
We did not have a finance committee since our last meeting, but I guess the only update I had is just I did my school partnership visit with FIFAC, so went there for their readathon on Halloween, and that was really fun to sit with the students. So thank you to that administration and the PTC and everybody for welcoming me in there. And then I wanted to save my thanks to you, Dan, for last. So I really appreciate your leadership on the board and willing to serve again, and all of your mentorship over the last almost year. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. I have nothing prepared, but I just want to thank you all for entrusting me with this role this last almost 11 months. As you all know, this is my fourth go around here, and I always take this job very seriously. Not myself so much, but the job for sure. And again, I appreciate you entrusting me with this. I appreciate you disagreeing with me respectfully when the times came. As I've said publicly many times, that this is the 5th superintendent that I've served with. And without trying to rank them, I just want to put it this way. We have the right person in the right place at the right time. And so whatever you guys can do moving forward to support the kind of work that I know he wants to do, you'd be very wise to do that. Dustin, best of luck. Congratulations. I'm sure you'll do just fine, and wish you nothing but the best. So having said that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn our meetings. We can move into a closed session to discuss negotiation strategy. Is there a motion to adjourn? By Director Bullion, second by Director Johnson. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries 6-0. And why don't we take 5 minutes and everybody can clear out and come back.